Hi everyone, my name is Heather.
And I'm Sandra.
And I'm the country manager for Eden in the UK, and I want to welcome everyone to our first ever watch event. And we are so glad that you have decided to join us tonight.
Eden is an organisation committed to speak up until all are free from sexual slavery. Eden extends God's love to people who have been trafficked for sexual exploitation, no matter their religion, ethnicity, or gender. Eden gives them a way out of a life of slavery.
And at Eden, they care for the whole person, their physical, emotional, spiritual, economic and social well-being. And Eden journeys with rescued women out of trauma into a life full of dignity and hope.
The journey includes counselling and economic empowerment by training survivors in jewellery craftsmanship. These beautiful handmade pieces of jewellery each tell a story. And when you purchase them, you join in the fight against slavery through financial support and by sharing these powerful stories of changed lives.
The watch party is a chance for you to find out more about Eden and to discover how you can get involved. Whether this is your first time hearing about us or you're already familiar with Eden's work, tonight will open our eyes to the amazing things that are being accomplished in the fight to restore justice for these women.
The UN has designated today, 30th of July, as World Day Against Trafficking in Persons. And we want to take the time to highlight the commitment and efforts of frontline workers who are seeking to end human trafficking around the world. And Eden is one organisation that is making a real difference in the lives of women and whole communities in Southeast Asia.
But enough from us! It's time to introduce you to Lisa Samuelsen, the founder and CEO of Eden, who is currently based in Myanmar. And Lisa is going to update us about the mission and work of Eden. And we can't wait to hear what she has to say. Over to you, Lisa.
Hi, I'm Lisa, and I'm the founder of Eden, an anti-trafficking organisation that has many sites in Southeast Asia and has been working for the last 17 years to rescue women and girls from some of the most horrendous acts of trafficking and violence against women. You know, when I went to school, I never thought it to be a privilege to receive an education. And even as a girl, it never considered in my mind to be educated as a girl was to be anything special. You know, I also had history classes and would learn about slavery in the 1900s. And I never would even imagine that I would be part of a generation where there are more slaves today than ever before in human history. Maybe this year it has become more of a reality for you. Maybe you heard about the 39 men and women that lost their lives in the back of a container truck being trafficked into the UK. Maybe you're hearing now about the Uyghur minority that are a slave labour force being used in our global supply chains. But human trafficking is real. And it is everywhere. It is in our food supply chains. It is in our restaurant supply chains. It is in our clothing supply chains. And most of all, and most prevalently in the exploitation of women and girls, it is in the sex industry supply chains. The sex industry supply chains are driven by profit. A large amount of profit. Actually, there is $99 billion of profit generated through the sexual exploitation of women and girls every year. We have been lulled into a sleepy state of not really understanding what is going on in the red light areas of our city. As we are tucking our own children up in bed at night, we don't want to think about that somewhere else in our city, children are being exploited and sold for sex or exploited through webcams. We don't want to consider it. It's too terrible, it's too horrible. And yet we must. Now is the time more than ever when we have a responsibility to protect the next generation, to protect the most vulnerable, and stand up against the scourge of human trafficking in our world today. Edmund Burke sums it up so well in this quote. He said that all that is necessary for the triumph of evil is that good people do nothing. Now is not the time that we should stand by and do nothing, while children, while young women's potential future and beauty for their lives are being destroyed daily. You may be thinking, what authority do I have to speak about these things? I'm just a normal person, just like you. I have 3 children, and I have had the opportunity to be able to be placed in Southeast Asia through my job 17 years ago, where I first began to see the horrors of human trafficking. In the beginning, I too tried to turn my face away, tried to not think about it, tried to ignore the realities of what I was seeing every day. But then over time I realized that I had to do something, and I began actually by giving just 1 evening a week to this cause. 1 evening a week to stand up and do something that would make a difference, no matter how small. 1 evening a week. And this 1 evening a week has led over the last 17 years to us building programs throughout Southeast Asia where we have rescued hundreds and impacted the lives of thousands of women and girls who have been trafficked. We have built cities of refuge. We have built places of shelter, restoration and transformation where we are able to offer trauma-informed care to girls who have been through the horrors of human trafficking. Human trafficking is the movement of people through coercion, through violence, through being deceived into promises of a false job, being given false hopes. Human trafficking is the movement of a person towards something. But what is that something? That something is slavery. It is treating human beings as commodities to be bought and sold, as units of labor. Is that really what we have become in our society? Is that really the place where we are, that we ignore this in our world today? No, we have a voice, and together our voices are powerful for us to speak up against this injustice, for us to be a voice for the ones that are voiceless. In the last 17 years, I have heard an immeasurable amount of stories. Thousands of stories of women and girls. Their stories of how their dignity was stolen, how their lives were crushed, how their potential was stamped under the feet of traffickers and exploiters, how they became hopeless, how trauma overwhelmed their thoughts, their feelings and their everyday life, how PTSD became part of their thought, thinking and their what they experienced in their body. I have heard their stories, and we have responded to those stories. To join our voices together, we create jewelry around those stories. We build our programs around those stories, that we have a human-centered design that is not about our ideas of what healing should look like, but based on their heartfelt stories. The stories of great escapes. I know women who have done death-defying escapes from bride trafficking, where they were literally chained as dogs inside of rooms and thrown food under the door in order to get them into submission, to be a good wife and a good bride. I have known them to knot together pieces of material so they could let themselves down from the 3rd floor window in order to escape. I have seen them plan their escapes and make bold and courageous runs for it, even though being chased by dogs, chased by pimps, chased by the traffickers. They have hidden in fields, they have hidden in ditches, they have faced prison sentences. Because for a lot of women, after they are taken by the authorities, They are put in prison before they can be repatriated back to their home country. The injustice continues even with the convictions of human traffickers. Only 8% of cases globally actually end up in a conviction. This is also something we need to join our voices and join our hearts about and say it's not good enough. We are not defending the rights of the poor and needy. It is not good enough. We are not defending the rights of the hopeless, of those that have not had the benefits of the Western education, of the Western world. As I began in the beginning, I never believed that education was something that was a privilege. I never believed that to be educated as a girl was something to think of as a privilege. And yet what I have seen in the stories of these women and girls over the last 17 years is that it is those aspects of vulnerability. It puts almost a target over their homes, a target to traffickers, a target to those who would exploit them, to say, here is a vulnerable family, here is a family who you can make money from, here is a family that can be exploited for profit because of their hopeless situation. But we are presenting ourselves to be ever more active, to be ever more involved in those communities, to be identifying vulnerable families, to be putting together this year a digital neighborhood watch program that can actually empower these communities to be part of protecting themselves and identifying those families that need extra protection. We have great hopes for the future, and we hope that you can join us in this fight against modern slavery.
Hi, my name is Alex, and I am a designer at Eden. I remember before I even joined Eden to be part of the design team, I bought one of the Eden jewelry and wore it to an art exhibition one day. And for some reason, the very necklace I was wearing is also this necklace. Caught one of my friends' attention, and she immediately asked me, oh, like, that piece of jewelry looks really interesting, where did you get it from? And apart from just telling her I got it from Eden, I also told her the story behind the piece itself. And after she heard it, she was like, wow, like, I've never thought there are still human trafficking going on around the world. I never thought how heavy this could be. And I just gave it to her as a gift, and because it's not only beautifully designed, but also there's power behind the story that she's wearing. And there's so much power in just wearing a piece of jewelry, because that's a way you can also share the story of everything that we're doing here. And hence, this is why we continue to do what we do, to not only design beautiful jewelry, but also bring these stories to life. So today I'm going to talk about this specific collection called Restoring Justice. So this collection is designed around an idea of a clock, cogs, and gears. And the design itself, which I'm wearing right now, in the middle part of it is a map of the infamous red light district area. And around it are the numbers of the clock. And obviously, if you notice, number 12 is actually missing, because 12 represent completion and also good governance. And the fact that 12 is missing is because there's still so much injustice around the world that the clock stopped ticking because of these injustices happening around us. And all of us, me, you, and everyone around us has a part to play to bring justice back into an area without justice. And we are the 12, and we are part of the solution. And also another piece that I'm wearing right now on my ear, we are also the gears that helps this clock to keep moving. Restoring Justice is probably one of the biggest collections that we've ever designed at Eden. It makes so much sense because there's so much injustice around the world that we need you to be part of the solution. We need you to be part of the gear, and we need you to be the missing 12. And at the end, we need you to be the clock hand to help the clock ticking again so that justice will be restored. And this collection, there's 14 pieces in both gold and silver in all different variety, when it down to hoop and a stud, a necklace, and pendants. And you can wear them all together like what I'm doing right now with different layering. All these beautiful jewelries are available online at thisiseden.org.
For me, I know that learning to speak up was the key to my freedom. I was born in a poor village, and it was hard for my family to survive. With 8 children to feed, we moved to the city in the hope of a better life, but it did not get better. Soon after the move, my mother passed away. My father worked hard and tried his best to look after us. He remarried, but still we struggled. When I was 15, my stepmother's sister told my father about a good job for me in a bordering country. He hoped for a better future for me and hugged me tight before I left with her. After the long journey, my aunt and I arrived at the brother. I slowly realized that this was my aunt's brother and this was the new job she had promised. I was so scared. I begged and begged her to take me home. She said my parents had already taken money from her, so I had to walk. If I complained, they hurt me. I felt so scared and alone. Every day I would look up the window at the mountain tops and wish that I could jump off them. I just wanted this to stop. My aunts forced me to tell lies about my situation, which hurt the people I loved the most. One day, I managed to sneak a phone call to my father. He immediately told the authorities and police arrested the brother. My aunt and the pimps were arrested. I was scared and ashamed to face my family. I barely spoke. My father was worried for me and wanted to get me help. The authorities told him about Aden. When he and I arrived at Aden, I did not want to speak. I did not want anyone else to know what I had done. At Aden, they didn't mind that I was quiet. They were kind and cared for me. I still did not speak. I thought that if they knew, they would reject me. Counseling helped me understand that I was not to blame. The other rescued women shared their story of hope and love with me. Finally, I was able to forgive my aunt, my parents, and myself. In those first days at Aden, I loved making the jewelry. I could sit and listen to the other girls talking and laughing. I was surprised that I could make something so beautiful. After being here for a year, I graduated and Aden offered me a full-time job as their jewelry workshop manager. When a new woman arrives at Aden, I welcome her and teach her how to make the jewelry. I speak words of hope and love. I want to use my voice to help them find the courage to heal, because I remember how I needed those messages of encouragement when I first came to Aden. When someone puts on a piece of Aden jewelry, they speak up for women like me as we walk to find our own voice again.
Hi, this is Mala. I will translate for her.
အားလုံးမင်္ဂလာပါရှင်။ကျွန်တော်မြန်မာလာဖြစ်ပါတယ်။ကျွန်တော်တို့ထိုင်ဆွေရီကိုချင်းနေဆက်လက်အပရိကေချာအားလုံးကိုညီနေကန်လှိုက်နေသေးကျွန်ပါတယ်ရှင်။ဆွေရီကိုဆက်လက်အပရိရင်သုံးချင်းကိုဆက်လက်ပေးချပါလို့အားလုံးကိုပြောချင်ပါတယ်ရှင်။ကြောင်းတာတော့ကြည့်ပေါင်းပေးချပါ။ဒီကုန်းခရိုင်ရီပကဆက်လက်ပေါင်းရည်တည်ပေးချပါအားလုံးကိုပြောချင်ပါတယ်ရှင်။
Thank you to everyone who bought our jewelry. It really means so much for our organization. Thank you for speaking up for the girls who has been trafficked. Please buy our jewelry more. We love you so much.
Wasn't that just powerful? Thank you, Lisa, for informing us about the stark realities of human trafficking. And it is incredible to hear your heart and your work and Eden's desire to share the stories of these amazing women, and we are truly moved by your words. And this is the kind of commitment and passion that have led us to support Eden in the first place.
And thank you, Alex, for sharing with us this beautiful line of Eden jewelry called Restoring Justice. It gives each of us a practical way to join in with the voice of Eden and speak up for women and victims of trafficking. And I was thinking, wouldn't it be great if each of us could become one of those cogs who help bring about justice in our world today?
And the good news is that you can do something to help. And here are a few practical ways that we can all join together to fight against human trafficking by partnering with Eden. You can go online and purchase Eden jewellery at thisiseden.org. The jewellery is absolutely beautiful and you'll be so proud to wear such amazing pieces. And as you browse the store, you will also be able to learn more about what Eden does and to hear some of the girls' stories.
Yeah. And on the website, you can also make a donation to support the frontline work that you heard Lisa speak about. And whether you're purchasing jewellery or donating, all of our contributions add up to lives being rescued and transformed. You can also raise awareness by following us on social media and sharing our posts with others.
And there are also opportunities for you to join the Eden team. Please get in touch if you want to join the movement, to give your time and skills. And here in the UK, we sell the jewellery made by these amazing women to raise money for Eden. And all the proceeds from the sales go back to helping Eden continue their awesome work and to giving the girls a fair wage. And we just wanted to say a big thank you for joining us tonight. And we hope that you have felt inspired and empowered to get involved with Eden. And the good news is we don't have to stand by helplessly. Each of us can play a part in restoring justice to women trapped in exploitation. We can make a difference.
So once we sign off here, we would absolutely love for you to go straight to thisiseden.org and have a look at the store and treat yourself or a loved one to a beautiful piece of handmade jewellery that will make a real difference in the world. Deal? Okay. Thank you for being with us. We are in the chat if you have any questions at all.
Have a great night. Bye everyone. Bye.